Mary,
Yeah?
are you a professional athlete?
No.
Nope, neither am I. Do you think you'll ever be able to be a professional athlete?
No.
Nope, neither do I, mainly because I'm 43. How old are you, Mary?
You're not meant to ask me that on camera.
I am an anonymous runner who you definitely do not know, and I am 43 years old.
Right, so now that's established, let me tell you something very exciting, and that is that there are so many things that professional runners do in their training and in their life that we can take and implement into our training just as average runners to make us instantly better. And I'm going to share with you 8 tips that I've taken inspiration from over the last few years, and Mary has too, and we've implemented it into our running overnight to make us better runners in the long term. So as we just finish off our slow run, that is my first tip for you, and it's something that I think I've tried to tell every athlete that I've ever coached, myself and Mary included, by the way, and that is keep your slow runs slow. Let me give you a real world example. Kipchoge, he runs his slow runs at a pace, if you work in kilometers, he starts his runs at 5:30 minutes per kilometer and he finishes it at 4 minutes per kilometer, which is still around about a minute and a half slower than his marathon pace, and he starts off 3 minutes per kilometer slower than his marathon pace, which is incredible when you think about it. That is, take your marathon pace and go 3 minutes slower. That's actually quite substantial.
Quite hard to do.
Yeah, so here's 4 things that we think you can use to keep yourself slower than you usually run if you find yourself running too fast. And the first one, oh Mary, Mary, you tell them the first 2.
First 2 are to be able to breathe out of your nose for the first few kilometers of your running, and to be able to hold a full conversation whilst you're running.
Yeah, no fragmented sentences. And from me, it's you want to be running at about 5 or 6 out of 10 in terms of your effort, no more than that. And the last one is you should feel guilty that you're not running faster, but feel smug that you're not running faster. Tip number 2 is that all pro athletes prioritize their sleep and their recovery, which is something that either we don't do or that we don't have the luxury of doing. And when I say they prioritize their sleep, what I mean is that they guarantee they get around 8, if not more, hours of sleep per night. But also, pro athletes tend to have naps in the day, and that's not something that we're able to do if we work a full-time job. But it just goes to highlight just how seriously they take that, because what they know is that sleep and recovery is the time when your body builds back up stronger. The training is what breaks it down. So you have to prioritize that, and then add into that, they make sure that they have days off per week, and they make sure that they factor in recovery weeks within their training cycles, so that all of those training benefits, all of the hard work they're doing in training, can actually mean something when it comes to when you recover and build back up stronger. So never neglect your sleep and never neglect your recovery, because they're mega important. Tip 3 is that it is never a waste of money to invest in you and your body. Think about the money that you spend in a week. What do you spend it on? Sometimes some people go out and they have drinks on a weekend. Some people spend it on expensive designer clothes or watches. But athletes, what they do is they invest in themselves. So they will invest in prehab. So we're talking about physiotherapy every week, multiple times per week. They invest in better shoes that will make them less likely to get injured. They invest in better clothes. They invest in a coach. They invest in all of those things that will give back in the long term to them. And that is something that we can really learn from. Is the biggest change that I made in 2021 that led me to go through the whole year for the first time possibly ever without an injury, is that instead of rehab, I changed it to prehab, and I booked in to see a physiotherapist every single month, whether I was injured or not, just as a tune-up, as like an MOT, and it kept me injury-free for the entirety of 2021. I was able to train consistently for an Ironman and then carry on after that, and I can't speak highly enough of using that method, because it is what the pros do and I learned it from them. Tip 4, and it's something you're probably not going to want to hear because I don't like hearing it either, but it is that strength and conditioning is crucial, but it doesn't have to be brutal. Now, if we take Eliud Kipchoge, again, I know I keep talking about him, but if we take him as an example, then you'll see that when he trains, when he does his strength and conditioning, he never does weights. He never does anything that is going to hurt his legs enough to lose the quality on his runs, which is the thing that he's passionate about. So Eliud Kipchoge trains with resistance bands and just body weight, and he works very specifically on the posterior chain, which are all the muscles on the back of you that propel you forwards when you're running. So the glutes, the hamstrings, the calves. He works on those 2 times a week, 1 hour a week, but what it does is it allows him to keep the quality high in all of his runs. His legs don't feel sore, and he's going to lose that quality. And so it doesn't have to be brutal, but it is crucial. Tip number 5 is find a system and trust it. And what I mean by that is training systems. There is no one training system that's better than all the rest, because if there was, let's face it, all pro athletes would be using it. So depending on where you come from in the world, you could be following the Lydiard system, you could be following the Canova system, the Nurmi system if you're in Scandinavia. They all have benefits, but what is the thing that sets the athletes apart that use them is that they trust the system they're in, and they don't look outwards. They don't continue to train but looking, oh, I wish I was doing that, or I want to be doing that. They trust the system, and then they take a long-term, long-minded view after a season. So find the system that you like, that fits you kind of the best. Go for a season. Don't keep thinking about changing it, because changes don't happen overnight. They're often longer term. So if you look back over a season and then evaluate whether you think your training has come on as much as you wanted or not, you can either change the system or double down and go back into that system for another year if it's really working for you. So find a system, trust it, go for it. Tip 6 is that your start is not your finish. And we can use that in training and we can use it in racing. Let me explain. Pro athletes, if they are doing a harder set, an interval session on the track or on the road, then they know that their first rep has to have the same quality as their last rep. So they don't get excited like probably most of us average runners do and go out and absolutely smash the first rep, feel amazing, feel super fast, but fall apart as the session goes on because we cannot hold that pace, because we're not conditioned to do so. The key to taking what pro runners do is make sure that that first session is moderated, is run at a pace that is obviously hard because you're trying to do an interval session, but not too hard that you wouldn't be able to do it for the second and third and fourth. They almost have a kind of long-term approach to each session to make sure the quality is high throughout. And if you take that into a race, when I say the start is not the finish, there's another saying. You can't win a race at the start, but you can lose it. And what that means is that we're probably all often very guilty, I know I am, of going out too hard at the start of a race and then feeling like we're sucking diesel and holding on and wanting to stop. Whereas pro runners tend to use strategies like the negative split, which is something where they aim to run the second half of their race faster than the first half. And you'll all have seen in races, when you watch the Olympics or whatever, you'll all have seen the races where the guy steams through, is speeding up towards the end of the race as everybody is slowing down and going back. Believe it or not, that guy that's steaming through is not speeding up. They're just the person slowing down the least because they've got it right. Everybody else is just slowing down way more. And that messes with your head when you first realise it, but watch it again and you'll see that they're not speeding up, they're just not slowing down. Right, tip 7 links into tip 8, which links into something special that I'm going to offer you. But first of all, tip 7. Don't be aimless, set goals. There isn't a pro athlete out there that doesn't have a longer term goal, something that they're working towards. Some have the Olympics, so that could be literally a 4-year goal working towards, but some just have a season goal or a race coming up that's in the next few months. But they're always working towards something because that holds them accountable and it keeps them training when they have maybe days where they don't want to, you know, when you come home and you'd rather do anything but training. If you've got a goal in there, you're much more likely to get out and do it. And for you, for the average athlete, it doesn't have to be a goal like a race. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It could be something as simple as, in 5 weeks, I want to be able to run with my friend and hold a conversation. Or it could be that in 7 weeks, I want to be able to do a 5 kilometers without stopping. They don't have to be goals that eventually end up in races. They could be any type of a goal, but something that just ties you in. That's the important thing, and it leads us on to point 8. And finally, tip 8. This is the king of all kings. This is the tip of all tips. Structure and consistency. Oh, my voice nearly broke.
Mr. Wembley, it happened again!
Structure and consistency are the most important thing in your training. They will get you where you need to go. Every professional athlete, has a structure either through a coach or they run their own plans that they're working towards, and they make sure that they are consistent. They don't miss sessions, and if they do, they don't miss 2 in a row. They train consistently because that's where the biggest gains are. There is no one frilly session that you will do and suddenly you'll be a better runner. The better runners are the ones that train week in, week out, day in, day out, regardless of the weather, regardless of how they feel. Unless they're injured, it's something that they get out and do. So what I'm going to offer you is this. This is my ultimate beginner to marathon training plan. Now, you don't have to go to marathon, but all this plan is a plan to take you from where you are right now, any level, and take you to the next level. So you could be a brand new runner, complete beginner, or you could be running 10Ks, or you could be running half marathons. Wherever you are, you can jump onto this plan and then follow it to the next point. It's downloadable, it has clickable links for the strength and conditioning. It is a one-stop shop to training and taking yourself on, making sure that you're structured and consistent. I don't know why you wouldn't want to. And if you don't believe me, then the other video that I've linked is Mary's first marathon that she got to having followed a structured training plan. So Mary's video, Seville Marathon, and she went from 5K to marathon in 2 years, following structure and doing it sensibly. So if she can, you can, we all can. See you Sunday. I'll just leave you with these lovely views to finish the video.